Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the May 22nd class for Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Technically, would be lesson 21, but the class only has 20 parts. So I'm even going a little bit overboard on this. It's a level 2 presentation. I'm not doing level 1 and level 2 today, and I wanted to do it because it's an important topic. It's all about sexuality. And, it's interesting in the Facebook intro, I was saying that in other semesters, I have conveniently glossed over this presentation because I didn't know if there was enough emotional maturity to be able to have this conversation with humanity. And I did do a presentation on it, I think last semester, or, not last year at some point. It's on YouTube. Let me just drink a bit of water too. And so I'm saying that on Facebook Live, and of course, the trolls showed up, and perhaps I spoke too soon when I have said to other people that I have wonderful people that come and watch my videos on YouTube without all the trolling and everything. So yeah, it was heavily trolled. And so I said, hey, you know something? There's no nonsense here. The truth is I'm a galactic walk-in, and I've come here at great difficulty and at great expense. I'm not here to waste time, and that the information that I have is meant to be informative and uplifting, and it is not appropriate for people to be disrupting or, disrespectful in me trying to share this information. So yeah, that was a bit of a disappointment. And so I'm happy now to be just sharing this information with this class, the people that are mature enough to be able to have this conversation, which, as I was describing, these are not my just personal feelings about the topic of sexuality. That what I'm going to talk about today are the energetic details of sexuality. And then you will understand my anthropomorphic stances, like how I feel, or my feelings on a particular topic. Like if you say, Aurora, is it right to do this? Aurora, is it right to do this? I'm not even talking about right and wrong. I'm not like in a moralistic, judgmental way. I'm talking about whether something is biologically healthful and whether it is healthy for the time field. Where's my little yellow sculpture? So everyone who's in this class, you are all experts. You know what I'm talking about, the time field, this living metabolic flow of time that goes all across multiple dimensions. It's also what I paint right here. So wait, let me get to my notes. I have extensive notes as usual, and I have diagrams. Good. Okay, computer, work for me. And if my voice sounds tired, it's because it is. I've had wonderful house guests. We've been collaborating on all sorts of wonderful projects. I've been talking a lot. So let me drink a lot of water too. So the time field is a living metabolic entity, and our DNA is connected to time. That's also foundation knowledge that you guys know from being in my class. What's at the center of your cell, your nucleus, what's inside your nucleus, it's your DNA. Your DNA is your connection to time. It's your connection to this, point of infinity. And what is happening when you are expressing your sexuality? You are literally combining your DNA with another organism's DNA, and that affects the time field. So the information that I'm presenting to you today is not on the anthropomorphic level. It's not just coming through the human filter. It's really coming more from the abstract level, from the level of looking at the map of time, of what is really happening when beings have sex, when humans have sex. So first I'm going to talk about, so this is all level 2 stuff. If you're in level 1, you're getting the advanced class early. And the entire 2 hours will be devoted to this. So level 2, I have this broken up into the way sexuality is supposed to be and the way sexuality is on Earth. So I'm going to speak, beyond the cultural filter, because there are things that are done in terms of life on Earth that are acculturated, or they're culturally acceptable. However, I feel that they are not for biological health, and they're not for the health of the time field. So when I say these things, you will start to understand that they're not judgments that are coming from a foundation in biblical literalism. That's not where I'm coming from. And people who know me know that I wear this cross, not in affiliation with the Christian church on earth at all, but as reclaiming that symbol in affiliation with actual Christ consciousness, this mosaic of viewpoints that is intergalactic. Okay, so all of that being said, and you guys already know me, and I'm not a transhumanist, I'm not a this, I'm not a that, all of my disclaimers, just put a little disclaimer across the bottom of all the things that I'm not, so that you know who I am at this point. Oh my goodness, and drink some more water too. So the first thing is sexuality is life force energy. And I'm just going to go to a couple of basic pictures that I have here that you guys have seen before. These are our, oh, wait, move my face. But I don't know if you can see me now. Hold on, maybe if I move this down to here. Just want to make sure, can you guys tell me in the chat, can you easily see both of those images of people with all their chakras? Well, anyway, life force energy. We have this non-physical aspect of self surrounding our physical self. Good, excellent. So that is a big part of our sexuality. Let me get my little thing and write and draw. Hold on a second. All the stuff that is surrounding us here. This is part of our sexuality. So again, this is not merely biological reproduction. It is a joining together of your DNA, and it is a joining together of your fields of potentiality. I want to say potentiality, reality, like, going off into space. It's your fields of potentiality. This is not a casual act at all. This is something that is like, you are a virtuoso musician and you are joining a symphony and you are playing with another virtuoso musician in order to make this amazing duet that is so powerful that it actually creates life. So I'll also tell you a little bit about this. I'm much more out of the closet about this. I'm one of the original genetic engineers that actually created the structure of DNA that, helped to be able to make this, like, consider it an armature for life. Like you have an armature inside of a sculpture that helps to hold up clay. That's kind of what DNA is like. And there was a group of beings that worked on this. And the way that it was created was through, singing it into being, and sound and light and these perfect harmonic formations. And that is the way that life was created. So I'm saying that to you so that you can get an idea of what the original creation experience was like. It was loving. It was not like genital interpenetration. It was a sharing of ideas, a sharing of energy, and a vocalization, or, harmonic singing, music making together of many people, like many chords together that begin to sound very beautiful together. And when the shapes and the notes fit together perfectly, it creates life. Okay, it's like a symphony. This is why I'm always talking about the symphony of life that literally creates life. And in order to do that, you have to be a very good musician. You really have to follow the beat. You really have to be in tune. It's easy to do it wrong. Like, it's easy to make horrible music that doesn't sound like music and it doesn't create life. But it's very, very challenging to actually create life. So the process of conception through sexuality, through intercourse, is like a miniature version of that. So again, this is not something to be taken casually. So one of the things that is acculturated here, that is normal, is the idea of casual sex, or sex without even knowing anything about one's partner, or sex that is considered to be divorced from procreation, or sex that is an activity merely for entertainment, or release from boredom or something like that. That all of those things are a diminished view of what sexuality is, to the point that it is hugely disrespectful. When I first came here to this planet, right? I've been here for 18 years. I was at I had made a new friend, and I was at their house. We were eating some dinner together, and they said, "Why don't I turn on the TV? And we'll watch a show while we eat our meal." And they put on that show, Sex and the City. And I watched it. And at first I thought, like, this has to be a satire. I thought, like, this has to be not real. This has to be like opposite talk than what is really going on. Because I could not imagine that that is an actual evidence of acculturated human behavior. I really had to learn about that. I really had to learn that in this place, people treat sexuality in a way that is not the way that I understand it from the abstract viewpoint. I could barely even get those words out. Like, I'm trying not to be insulting or whatever, but it is hugely inappropriate the way that humans are treating sexual life force here. So, okay, now let's get to responsibility and drink more water. It's inappropriate the way that humans are treating sexual life force here, because it's life force energy and the time field is connected. So your music is connected to everything that's out there. What you're doing with your personal body and your DNA is affected to everything, is connected to everything, is affecting everything. Pardon me if my words aren't perfect. So even if you're not having sex, you're emanating vibrations to the other musicians, and the other musicians are emanating vibrations back. And the whole idea is that a sexual relationship is the culmination of that social relationship, is the culmination of that energetic relationship, where you have a dynamic rapport to the point of being able to conceive new life. It's basically doing magic, but not magic in the sense of diminished occult magic. Not magic in the sense of you have to have a recipe with an eye of newt and a magic wand, and that is how you make something happen. It is the literal creation of matter. What do I say all the time? That this is your quantum laboratory, that like my dress is not mine, right? Like my lamp with my light bulb in it is not mine. I don't own those molecules, but I own the molecules of my body. It's my quantum laboratory. I can do stuff with it. This is my matter. And when you conceive a child, you are creating that new matter container for another consciousness. It's an incredible, miraculous activity to be doing. So what is acculturated here is this divorce of the act of sexuality from the use of life force energy to actually create new life. So this is why it's disturbing, because the health of this shape, and remember, this is a shape that is not alone. There's many of them all around it. I have to make a big giant sculpture for you to see that. But with your mind's eye, imagine that there's many of these. They're all around. They're all moving and shifting and interrelating to one another. And these are our various lives in the time field. And energy is supposed to flow in these perfect, figure 8 movements and these almost like water wheels. They're supposed to flow all through this with no impediment. And so if there is something that is not connected right, like I use the example, it's like a baton, like, you're in the relay race and some guy's supposed to hand you the baton, you're standing there waiting and he doesn't hand it to you, and then you can't run because you don't have the baton. That's what happens. That's the type of thing that happens when this time field becomes distorted, especially through sexuality. So there are a lot of other things that are distorting the time field too. So I have to say that because it is such a powerful life force, and so this is also root chakra stuff. This is where our sexuality is. It is where we are connected as energy beings to a physical body. You got to have a baby in order to have a body. This is like basic foundation stuff. Because it's so foundation, because it's so crucial, and it's so richly energetic, that is why it is affected in terms of consciousness mining or consciousness reduction or consciousness harm or energy harvesting. I got to drink more water. This is the other aspect of this topic that is difficult to talk about. So it's not just that humans might be frittering away casually, treating their sexuality as if it's not something real. Like that in itself is disrespectful to this perfect pattern of music. And it's also the intentional malevolent distortions where you have something that I would say is a consciousness residue, like one of those people, that supernatural residues that lives on the interstices, right? Like one of these pooties that we joke about in this class to lightheartedly, talk about this topic. One of those beings affecting or infecting the behavior of a living being to the point of causing them to be like a demonic minion, where a person would intentionally do something that is against another person's sexual boundaries in order to cause the distortion, the wibble wobbling. I've spoken about how like you can be in perfect alignment and then we can almost count in degrees. This is how much energy has been siphoned off. Oh, look, a 30-degree distortion has been achieved by this rape or by this incest or by this, sexual indiscretion, by this going against a boundary. That's literally what happens in terms of sexual attack. So I'm saying there's a difference. The consensual, socially, culturally accepted behaviors in this time and place are distorting the time field. And non-acculturated, non-socially acceptable behaviors like rape and incest are also distorting the time field. This is a very difficult place to be right now if you want to express your sexuality in a healthy way. And that's like saying it is very, very difficult to sing your own beautiful music perfectly in tune when everyone around you is crashing away, bashing their pianos, smashing their guitars on stage, and having very, very horrible music all around you. It is very, very challenging. The entire process of finding a mate in this world, like the mating process between humans, is heavily distorted. So it's hard to find another partner. The programming, both genetic and social, in terms of what is expected, what is appropriate behavior, what is, socially and culturally accepted and expected behavior, is also very distorted. And so it's like hard to find a mate. Everybody comes with these already pre-programmed expectations that are very distorted, and unhealthy is another good word to use. And then actually having a child and the way that it is treated, pregnancy and birth the way that it is treated in the medical industry is big. And so one of the things that you might notice as I'm speaking here is when I'm talking about sexuality, I am mostly speaking about it in terms of reproduction. And I think that it is incredibly unhealthy to separate those two things. That's the whole point that I'm trying to make. As an abstract being here for a little while, 18 years in a human body. And so that means I feel what it feels like to be biological. I'm not just sitting on a cloud. I'm not just interdimensional. I know what hormones feel like. I know what it feels like to have a monthly fertility cycle. I know what it feels like to have the feelings of being an adult female in this world. So I can actually speak about all of this. Let me drink more water. Sorry, I didn't collect my thoughts. There's a level of responsibility that is part of adulthood, that when one is a child, first of all, one is not sexually mature, and it means that you cannot achieve orgasm. And orgasm, let's draw it out for you because we're talking about this today. So also in that, first of all, I'm going to draw an orgasm for you, but one of the things I wanted to say was that show Sex and the City, it talks all about boyfriends and girlfriends and all these different kind of boring, social patterns and things like that, but it doesn't talk anything about what are you doing with your energy centers to actually have an orgasm. So I think that also generally humans on Earth are having uncomfortable, unproductive sex that does not give them an orgasm or does not feel comfortable and is not sexually satisfying and does not actually end in procreation. So as an abstract outsider to this world and to this body, all I can say is humans, I think you're doing it wrong. I don't think that you're doing this the way that you're supposed to be doing this. So what is orgasm? That is what happens with annotate in a color you can see. That is what happens when you take the energy that is collecting down here in the root chakra and the orange chakra, and it collects in the energy centers, and then it spirals all the way up these perfect circular pathways to here, and then eventually goes out the top of your head, like all the way up, all the way up your spine, and then out the top of your head. And then that is like a reconnection to the divine. And so again, this is not a casual activity. This is a lovemaking with the divine. And I'm not speaking through the filter of biblical literalism. This is not me trying to say that you have to have a smiling picture of a bearded Jesus over your bed saying, yes, I smile down on you. You're allowed to have sex with that woman. That is not what this is about. Because, I spoke about that in the death cult religions, this whole idea of pre-programming for sin, that telling humans that they're lowly and disgusting, that they're pre-programmed for sin, and that you're not allowed to have sex, and that is a horrible thing to do. I'm not coming from any of those directions. So now let me speak more positively. What is actually supposed to be happening when humans have sex? Let's do that now, because I think I spoke a lot in the negative. Let's speak some in the positive. I know that these pictures are not of the same scale, and we can joke about this because the male one over here is smaller than the female one over here. Oh, wait. Hold on, I gotta stop this because I gotta make sure everybody's muted. Someone's not muted. Let me make sure. Thank you so much. Mute upon entry. I thought I'd click that button, but it's all cool. I didn't intentionally make the boy smaller than the girl just because I'm a girl. I'm sorry, but maybe it's a little bit of equal portion here because I'll just be, whatever, more female-centered. So in sexuality, what is supposed to happen is all of these energy centers are supposed to line up with one another. The ones that are at the very top of your head, I don't know if you can see that, there we go, line up together. The one that's in the center of your forehead, oh, that totally didn't fit. That was not a successful partnership. There we go. Let's make this go all the way to there. Basically, all of these energy centers are supposed to fit together. And that's why the position of the bodies matters. Someone asked me in a previous presentation about sexuality or made a comment on YouTube. And they said, hey, isn't a 69 just fine? Because, it's all just good and you should just do what both you and your consenting partner feel is good. And I thought that was a very sweet, the way that it was presented was very sweet, very naive. And I'm not being condescending in that way. I'm trying to say that I thought that the way that the person said it, it was not a malevolence at all. It helped me to understand the way that sex is presented in this world. It's kind of just wiggle around and do what's good and it's all fine. There's no background. There's no musical training here. I'm not faulting anyone for having that perception. But what I would like to clarify is that this is just like putting batteries together into some kind of apparatus, where I don't have a little thing, I have to have a little, a little, or any kind of thing. This is a battery charger. The batteries have to go in the battery charger just right. The positives and negatives have to fit together just right in order for this apparatus to work. If you put it in backwards, it doesn't work. That is how I would like to portray this energetic relationship of bodies. because I'm familiar, I understand that in this world of human sexuality, that certain sexual positions are considered to be so boring. And why are you doing that? Face-to-face actual contact where you can actually see your partner's face and, you know, delve into their eyes and be a part of them. That is what you're supposed to be doing. And so all of your social contact leading up to sexuality and sexual expression is supposed to be an aligning of the chakras. So even social activities like dancing or, you know, spending time together, it is all like practicing together. So wait, someone asked me this recently because I was sharing with them the idea that sex is supposed to be for procreation and the reasons why. And they said, do I think that it's okay to practice with someone, you know, who you're in a committed partnership with? I said, yes, of course. Like making a child together, conceiving a child together is like a big performance. It's like giving the symphony. You have to take time to collaborate and write the music and find each other's beats and rhythms. That is totally appropriate. You get to practice, and the intention is to practice in order to have an actual family. The reason why, I'll go back to my face, hold on a minute. The reason why these feelings and this energy have been given to humanity is for humans to use it well. One is supposed to use it. You are supposed to use it in order to keep your bodies healthy and keep the time field healthy. And that also means you're supposed to have sex with the right partners. It is not right to have sex with 10 million random strangers. This is not just because of biology, because of the idea of, you know, transmission of diseases or, you know, whatever, overexposure in some way. This is about not having to play the wrong notes on the piano. There's 88 notes on a piano. Do you have to play 87 wrong notes before you hit the 88th note that's actually right? Do you have to have 87 wrong sexual partners before you finally find that one person that you're supposed to be with? No. What do I say in this class all the time? That we weren't designed to be like a car that has no windshield and no steering wheel. We're supposed to have our higher faculties online so you can see through time, so you can perceive the future. And that also means being able to perceive who you're supposed to be with, so you know who you're looking for, not weird random strangers. So you're not supposed to just sleep with weird random strangers. And also you're not supposed to get to know someone by first touching your genitals and then talking to them later and finding out their name and finding out details about the weird random strangers that you have touched your genitals to. That is totally opposite to the way you're supposed to be doing it. And I know that that is in many ways acculturated and considered to be normal in this place. So I'm not telling you this from a standpoint of judgment, biblical literalism, or any kind of thing like that. I'm telling you from the sense of energy and sharing these things. You're supposed to know who you're looking for, and you're supposed to have a real connection with that person. And that's because that is your intended genetic partner, like I want to say puzzle piece, your genetic puzzle piece that you're supposed to fit together with. Everybody is not interchangeable. I gotta have more water. Not everybody is interchangeable. There are many things that are genetically specific that can make someone either an appropriate, someone's not muted. Mute you on up, everyone. There we go. And just making sure everybody mutes upon entry. A drink of water. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. We'll return back. And of course, if you guys have questions or comments of yourself, I'm happy to respond to them. So 2 types of things that are going on here. Distortion of the time field. That's from people just choosing weird random partners and sometimes even making weird random babies. So I'm doing this contrast I'm kind of mixing the contrast, the good and the bad. You're not supposed to have weird random babies either. Like you're supposed to be able to see through time and know who your partner is. And you're supposed to, kind of like an art project, find your partner. And then you're supposed to, like a music project, learn to play your lives together. And then you play your music beautifully enough to actually create a new life in the symphony. That's kind of what you're supposed to do. And the new life that comes in is not supposed to be a weird random stranger. It's supposed to be a child that you telepathically are in connection with before they ever come into the body. And so again, for this objective materialist world where people can barely even recognize the existence of consciousness, much less the idea that a consciousness exists and then goes into a fetus in a baby, and that a consciousness might actually interact with the mother, with the parent, with the father in asking to come through that portal of their womb, that is wild to the objective materialist scientist in this industrialized Western world. It is not wild to many indigenous people in this time and place and many indigenous people in the past, that was considered normal. that the idea of having a weird random stranger come into your womb was totally abnormal. So what was normal was that you would have a vision of the person that, or a dream of the child that you're going to have, or you have a feeling of who you're bringing in, that you have a soul contract, you have an agreement, and then you bring that baby in. It's kind of like you know what you're getting into. And so this now gets to distortions of the time field, because those same beings that came to our planet in planetary invasion over 10,000 years ago, they've been doing this thing that is like the genetic hopscotching. They've been genetically hopscotching without actually really dying. They've been hopping from body to body through these different lineages. So that type of stuff is going on and is disrupting the natural music that is supposed to be going on in terms of partners coming together. So once again, you want to find your ideal partner. You want to fit with the music of the cosmos, because the great conductor, great composer, tap, 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 has a very clear vision of how this music is supposed to go. Tap, tap, tap. Now it is time for you to play your instrument, be born, and play this music in the time field. That means be shaped like this and do these experiences in life, in time, and your experiences relate to the rest of the time field in the right way. You're an organism that was created intentionally with intentional personality characteristics, going in an intentional direction, not randomly. So what we've had are a lot of randomly created people that are not intentional melding together of genetic tendencies, personality tendencies, biological tendencies, energetic tendencies, and provenance. Provenance is this French word, and it's also used in the antique world. It means where something came from. That you have an antique, it has provenance. Where did this lasagna come from? Well, it was made here, then it was in this estate here, then it was sold to the collection over here, and then it ended up in this museum over here. You know, like I'm talking about antiques. Antiques get passed down through families. They have a provenance. So you and your genetic heritage, you all have that. And that's also part of why it is special to be a human. You're not lowly, you're not horrible, you're not sinners. It is special to be a human. You can actually look back into your genetic record and say, oh, this is where I came from, this is what happened, this is what this is. The musical score of you, it is incredibly valuable and precious. So that one of those things, like I think that maybe humans would treat each other and themselves better in terms of their sexuality if they also knew more the value of their own musical score of their DNA. If you knew how beautiful and unique and special your music was, and how you're supposed to play your music with an appropriate partner, like, you know, whatever, a cello and a violin, and they sound wonderful together. Like if you're an electric guitar, like you're going to have to find a drummer, like you're going to have to find the right people to fit together. So not all blood types fit together. There can be a problem if you are an Rh negative mother and you have an Rh positive father, that the mother can have difficulties in the body rejecting the fetus. Same thing with an blood type O mother and carrying a child that is AB or AB in their womb, that there can be issues with that. That is just on the biological, scientific, objective materials level. But remember, all of these blood types are genetic. So now you have to understand that not every instrument is tuned the same way. Not every instrument is made to fit together, just on a very basic level. So now let's talk culturalization. Why do people marry and procreate with beings who are not actually, they don't actually love? They do that. Oh, hi, I see lots of beautiful people on the video. They do that because they have to, for money and for survival reasons. So at many times in history, women have not been in control of their sexual partners, who they procreate with and who they marry, or who they are committed to in partnership. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. And I will go into this also. There's a reason why women have this creative capacity that is the womb, that is the reproductive organs. Women are supposed to be the decision makers in terms of what notes, let's play some music here, what music will that little song move forward in time? I don't know, ask a woman, because it is a woman's choice whether that genetic characteristic will enter her womb and be what is gestation? It is cultured, like grown and magnified. That potential genetic possibility goes into a woman and gets magnified and amplified till it becomes a real person. And a woman gets to choose. And a woman gets to choose in this world. I mean, many of the characteristics are arbitrary. Like if a guy has a motorcycle, that is not really affecting his genetic quotient at all. But some women are attracted to motorcycles. So she's like, yes, I'll procreate with the man that has the machine. But it's supposed to be about his muscles, or the shape of his face, or some other physical characteristic where you say, that physical characteristic or personality characteristic gets to move forward in time. So when a woman is forced to marry a male that is not physically attractive, that maybe he doesn't have a healthy body, maybe he doesn't have a well-formed face, maybe he's not a good genetic partner for her because otherwise she would be poor, or otherwise she would starve, or otherwise she would be a prostitute. Those are really big problems in the way that our world has been set up until this point. Women have not been able to always choose their own partners. And even at this point in time in human history, there are many situations, many cultures still on the planet where women are not free to choose or to let's say, to refuse the sexual partners that they do not wish. And that's also, biologically, if I were just to talk about this a little bit. So in biology, the woman has the egg, and the egg is like the beacon saying, come to me, come find me. And all these different sperm come and knock on the door like, how about me? Like take off his hat. How about me? How about me? How about me? The woman gets the right to refuse. No. That's how it's supposed to be. And here's how much male thinking has influenced science research, that it's only up until very, very recently that they used to think that it was just the strongest knock on the door got into the egg. But now it's not true. Science has become sophisticated enough to be able to measure that there's actually a chemical signal that reaches out from the egg. The egg chooses the sperm. The egg reaches out with a chemical signal and says to a particular sperm, you're the one. Come on in and make that music with me. And that's the choice of the woman. So that is, again, this is to me, I'm not speaking through a cultural filter, although I am speaking to your cultural filter of expectations about mating, dating, and how you find a procreative partner. Sorry if my mouth doesn't work. Drink of water. Okay. And I'll get to your question. Hold on. Let me just finish up on this. There's all this question in this time and place about, whose baby is it? What is feminism? What are all these things? I'm not speaking through that level of understanding. So please understand that. I'm not saying I'm a rabid feminist and I feel like it's a woman's body and, her, but I'm trying to say that we need to change our entire culture. And our entire earth human culture so that women get to choose and women get to refuse. And that includes women being empowered economically to the point that you don't have to live with a guy or marry a guy or be in a sexual partnership with a guy just to have a place to stay. So we might think, oh yes, forced marriage or arranged marriage, that is only in the Far East, or that is only in some benighted kingdom far away. But here in the United States and in many Western industrialized cultures, there are a lot of women who have to make a compromise because it is so difficult to earn enough money to live on your own as a single woman. There are many women who are in relationships of convenience with sexual partners, not because of love, but because they need that in order to be able to have a two-income household and maintain, being able to live. So in order for women to be able to make, that's also why some women stay with inappropriate partners who do not have good personality characteristics beyond even their physical characteristics. They might be horrible emotional abusers, and women stay because they're not economically empowered enough to be able to live on their own. So that is another huge cultural shift that needs to take place. You should never have to be in a sexual partnership with someone, not in terms of flat out prostitution, but this is culturally accepted, just in terms of staying in a mediocre relationship because it is not possible financially, or when I keep saying financially or economically, because of money. Because people make decisions about their heart and their body and access to their sexuality based upon money. Wait, that's a good segue. Before I get into your questions, let's talk about access to your sexuality based upon money. So now we're getting into outright prostitution. But there's a lot of stuff that's prostitution, hookers walking the street, but then there are other prostitutions. There are prostitutions where the casting couch in, quote unquote, casting couch in Hollywood, all of that is the malevolent distortion of the time field by demonic minions. So these producers that would say to you, hey, baby, I'll make you a star. Just come on in here for a private interview. And then afterwards, I'll be sure to, show your headshot around town. And you know what happens in the private interview. It means that they have to have sex. It is the selling of selling of sexual energy for money. It's the commodification of sex. That is not what is supposed to be happening at all. So once again, when we mature, in terms of our hormones and our capacity to have sex and to carry life force energy and to have an orgasm, you become an adult, you can have an orgasm. That's what sexual maturity means. It means you are ready to reproduce. You can have an orgasm, and an orgasm is a reconnection to your own divinity, to God. It means you are mature and you have to have responsibility in the way that you use that. So, of course, this is a total subversion of the responsibility of holding life force energy to say, oh, if you want something from me, you got to give me sex. That is wrong on every level. That is like saying, oh, if you want something from me, you're going to have to mess up this beautiful symphony, this beautiful painting that divine beings have been making for, so many millennia. And that's just so you can get a job. That is wrong. That is wrong in every way. I'm just continue to say that in every way. And I'm trying not to use expletives and just be really clear in my language here today. And so that clearly then sexuality is being commodified, and sexuality is being used in terms of use of power, like having empowerment over other people. And if you relate to lesson 18, the idea of the economy of hell, sex is the literal commodity or the energy, sexual energy, that is being bought and sold and traded in the economy of hell. And that I say this all the time too. We have to talk about sex and energy harvesting. The front, our planet right now, the international economy on our planet, when I talk about like the United States trading with China and Saudi Arabia and all of that, the international economy is a front. Just like a bodega down the street can be a front. Nobody buys those magazines from that bodega. Nobody buys gum from that bodega. People go in and out of there all day long. What are they doing? Oh, they're going into prostitutes that are in the back room of the bodega, right? It's a front. This is our world economy. This is not about dollars. This is not about petroleum. It's not about gold. It's not about diamonds or weapons. It's about sex. They are selling sex energy. So now someone can ask me, Aurora, does this mean adrenochrome? No, this does not mean adrenochrome. Now I have to be really clear. Adrenochrome is the Easter Bunny. It's like a non-literal thing that has been created in order for people to understand something that is beyond their understanding. Okay, so we're like Santa Claus, I should have said. How did these presents get here? Santa Claus. No, the energy of sexuality is not physical. It's not physical. Can you take an orgasm and put it like in a jar? No, you can't. It's not a physical thing. So the energy beings that feed off of human sexuality are also non-physical. They are non-physical. They are supernatural, interdimensional residues. They don't eat hamburgers. They eat your sexuality, and they love to eat distorted and degraded sexuality. So we can talk about this, like the normalization of anal sex. Anal sex is not something that is supposed to be happening. It is an aberration. It is a biological aberration that has become culturally acceptable. That is not what you are supposed to be doing with your anus. Humans, please tell all other humans that is not what you are supposed to be doing with your anus. Thank you. It is an aberration. You're putting your genetic sensor, which is your, like your genitals, into a place of poop. That is not what you're supposed to do. Your penis is your genetic sensor. You are not supposed to, it's like a finely tuned, like a magnet or something that is very finely tuned. It's like the most finely tuned part of your body. You're putting it into poop. You're putting it in the wrong place. You're putting it in a place that can never create music. That's why it's not this thing that you're supposed to be doing. I feel like I'm a teacher, talking to like very young people when I say this, but I don't want to be condescending. But I literally have to tell you, please do not put the most valuable thing you have on your body into poop. Thank you. I know we have to be a little bit lighthearted, but also this is like disturbing to me. So perhaps I should get on to some questions and just move away from that concept for a moment. Okay, thank you for your heads up on the mute there. Brandon says, I was drawn to my partner in a dream. Beautiful. We were friends for over a year before we decided to take our relationship to the next level. I consider it the reason our relationship has lasted as we have a friendship as the foundation. I think that's a beautiful sharing, and thank you for being an example of that in this reality. I think that that is what we need to encourage, and I would like to have more males who are like of a mature age, who already know who they are in life, to be able to be mentors for young men, to be able to say, it is right for you to look for the right woman, instead of the way that here culturally it is said to males, get out there and just find a girl. Like, don't be a loser. Don't be a 40-year-old virgin. Break your virginity. Find a girl, like any weird random stranger. Just find someone. And I think that that is a disrespectful way of acculturating young men. And I would like to see mature men tell them, like, no, a real man looks for a woman that he deeply cares about and that wants to have a family with. So this is another thing. There's an anti-human agenda that's going on in terms of saying to people, to humans, that sexuality should just be something fun and frivolous. It shouldn't be actually about making family. Family, ew. Babies, ew. Poop, ew. Like, I have to change a diaper, ew. That families are so burdensome, that children are just going to drag you down. That's the worst thing in the world, and that it's way better if you happen to have sex and accidentally make a baby and make a symphony to abort it intentionally. Okay, so now I have to talk about this. I use painting as an example because we're going to talk about abortion. And again, none of this is about religion at all. But if you are painting a painting, you are painting a painting. People have divorced the act of sexuality from the act of procreation. If you are engaging in sexuality, you are engaging in procreation. It is not mature for me to say, "Hey, you know something? I want to take this paint, and I want to take this paintbrush, and I want to take a canvas, and I just want to put stuff on the canvas, but I don't want to actually make a painting." That is not mature, because you have to understand this is a paintbrush, and this is paint, and that is a canvas. And that is what those things are made for. It is totally fooling yourself. It is being disingenuous. Like, I'm just moving my hand around with some paint on it. I'm not actually doing anything. I'm not actually painting a painting. You're painting a painting. You're making reality. You're making things happen. So stop even pretending. So once you do that, you have to take responsibility. Wow, I'm actually doing something with my penis. I'm actually doing something with my vagina. I'm actually making something happen. Then you have to take responsibility. This is called maturity. So again, there's very, very little of that in this, world as it is presented now. There was much more of it in other times and places, in other cultures. Some of it is still held in some indigenous communities. It's hard to find it. It's hard to find that can be why, let's say you're a male who's trying to be conscientious and practice good sexuality, but then all the guys around you are like, yeah, like, go get some pussy, like, get a lot of beer and get some pussy. And like, it can be very difficult then that you're not socially ostracized because you want to have healthy expression and do it in the way that is energetically appropriate, as opposed to finding, be bound to peer pressure. And I think that this is what a lot of people have difficulties with, that they make compromises in order to fit in what is culturally acceptable, but what is not actually acceptable. And yes, what is going on right now on college campuses, like, there's a lot of indoctrination about what is appropriate use of the body, what is appropriate use of sexuality, how to do sexuality. And I think that that is where a lot of the distortions are coming from. We can talk about abortion. We can talk about the globalist transgender agenda. And I can talk about homosexuality and I'll get to all of your wonderful questions. Wait, let me do this too. On a previous video, a person who is homosexual made a comment on YouTube. And so I want to be really, really clear on this. He said, well, Aurora, like, if you're saying that you think that sex should be procreative only, and I'm homosexual, that would mean that I would never be able to have sex. And if I could never have sex, I would want to kill myself. And so I would first of all, everything that I say, I'm very clear on this. It's part of my disclaimer at the bottom. Please never kill yourself. Please never kill other people based on what I say and what anybody says. But yeah, please never, nothing I'll say should make you so despondent as to want to kill yourself. But let's also examine that whole idea. Is sexuality the penultimate thing that you do every day that makes you who you are? Like, if someone took away your penis or took away your vagina or if you were in a horrible accident and you broke your neck, if you could no longer have sex, would life still be worth living? This is a really important question, because some aspects of human committed relationships are during the time when humans are fertile. Then there are some times when they are old and not fertile. If you are only having a relationship based on fertility and saying, oh, everything is about sexuality, then what happens if there's no more sexuality? Can you have fulfilling relationships with the world that do not involve the touching of genitals? The answer is yes. Big, big, big yes. So this is a cultural wall that I need to break down, because in this time and place, people say, I'm all alone. I'm so low. I'm quoting here. People say, I'm all alone. I'm so lonely. I wish I had a boyfriend. I wish I had a girlfriend, because then I could have someone to walk on a beach with, have someone to have a meal with, have someone to share my home with, have someone to go to movies with. that it's not just about intercourse and sexuality and orgasm and sexual fulfillment, it's also about companionship. So I think that it's necessary for many people to make a distinction between the desire to procreate and have a family and make a painting and the desire to have companionship. And in other times and places, and maybe, possibly still in some communities that are, very small, family structure remained undisturbed. Right now in our time and place, family structure is very disturbed. That means you don't live on your family lands in your farmhouse that your great-grandfather built with all of your cousins and aunts and uncles around you on, little, smaller buildings or in the town that's right down the road. You don't have that extended family. And even to the point that many parents in this time and place say, I take care of you as a child until you're 18, then get the F out and go get a job and don't be in my basement. That, to me, is very disturbing. And no offense to anyone who's a parent who's done that. And if you've had that experience, I'm sorry that you've had that experience, because we're supposed to be helping one another in our journeys. And I think that that's part of the intentional agenda, big agenda, globalist agenda, all this disempowerment agenda that is trying to take away the family structure, because family structure is incredibly powerful, that the way that it used to be in Europe and in other places. And so we have a very new country here that's part of it, but also it's intentional family destruction, a lot of it through economy, through the way that they set up the economy. It's because family is so strong. People would die for their family members. Parents would die for their children. Parents would die protecting their children. Families would fight together. It's like it's a very strong tribalism. And if you want to divide and conquer, that's part of how you divide and conquer. You break up the family. So one way to do that is to make it seem like having a family is so burdensome. Oh no, you're having children. Oh no, instead of, oh yay, another wonderful member of our family that we're all going to come together and take care of. So yeah, it used to be like, whatever, if you had a teen pregnancy, that's okay. You have the baby as a teenager and your grandma helps you to take care of it because your grandma and all of your aunts live with you down the road, and you still grow up, and then, find your partner and have other babies when you're more mature. Like, this is but here in this world, it's like, no, what a horrible thing. You're pregnant as a teenager and you're not married to your partner. So what we're going to do is force you to have an abortion, and you're not allowed to marry your partner, and you have to go to a boarding school or something like that. Like, you understand the way that it's a different approach now, because people are like, no, you're supposed to leave your family, live in your own suburban neighborhood, have your own lawnmower. No, what you're actually supposed to do is live together as family and use the family lawnmower. And everybody works together, and everybody hires everybody, and everybody takes care of everybody. So it is the intentional destruction of the family structure in order to weaken individuals. So, okay, wait, get to more things. So Robert says, what about sex if you are not having children with your partner for whatever reason? So that's the question of the for whatever reason. I understand that there can be medical reasons why a person would not want to have a child, or definitely if you're too old, or what are the other reasons? If you have paint and a painting, why would you want to say we want to have intimacy and companionship but not actually make a baby together? So that's the question that really has to be asked. Why are you having a procreative activity if you do not actually want to procreate? And why is there, so that there's a question to be examined there in perhaps it is necessary to restructure society so that we can have people around us who love and care about us, but with whom we do not have genital sexual contact. Because I think a lot of people get into relationships when they think that they need to be sexually fulfilled, when what they really want are people around them who love and care about them, which in other times and places would be defined as family. But family structure in this time and place has been radically changed and in often ways weakened and destroyed. So what I'm proposing is that people determine a sense of human family, non-biological family members that you surround yourself with, who love and care about you and with whom you do not have sex. So now I have to say this. So many people have been abused in this world, sexually abused, that many people do not have healthy sexual boundaries. And they have a bleed through, a erroneous association of affection and caring and loving someone else with expressing it through sexuality. You can be affectionate to someone. You can love someone profoundly. You can care about them, and you do not have any desire to have a sexual partnership or relationship with them. So let's say there's an incest relationship. That's totally wrong, because the child is not an appropriate sexual partner. You will have recessive babies. You cannot do that. That is wrong. That's not right biologically or energetically in any way. But let's say there's sexual contact between a parent and a child, and the child learns, well, wait, this is how love is expressed, through inappropriate sexual partnership. So then that child, when they grow up, they say, oh, if I want love or whatever, it is expressed through sexual partnership, instead of saying that it's appropriate to have safe, non-sexual relationships that give us all of the physical love and affection that we need as mammals. We are mammals. We need loving and hugging and whatever, even like grooming each other's hair, all these different things that are part of being happy and healthy. We're in this very isolated world right now where a lot of people don't hug. A lot of people don't have positive, non-sexual physical contact, to the point that people hire a professional cuddler. I don't know, what is the rate for a professional cuddler? Is it $60 an hour? Is it more? Like, people are wanting to have safe and respectful and appropriate. It's like a food. When you hug someone else and you get that love, it is a type of food. So I'm not saying anything, Robert, to you about your particular partner or anything like that. I'm not saying that you should divorce them and have an asexual relationship. I'm just saying that the way that I'm responding to your question is to say, I think that we, mature people in this conversation, need to start restructuring our mind to say, if I am bored or if I am lonely, do I really want to have a heterosexual partner of the opposite sex with whom I am using my sexual energy to create a baby? Or do I want to live in community with a bunch of other artists that I make music with? Or do I want to live on some kind of a permaculture farm where we're all working together and growing our food together, and that all of those people love and respect one another and offer affection and, non-sexual forms of, mammalian physical hugging and food appropriately without sexual contact. So there's all these things that happened in the 60s and 70s that is called the sexual revolution, which was basically, I feel, an unhealthy removal of sexual boundaries, to say, yeah, sure, you live on a permaculture farm and everybody sleeps with everybody and that's all totally fine. No, I do not think that is all totally fine. And this is not coming from some Puritan or fundamentalist approach to our sexuality. It is coming from the sense that sexuality is incredibly special and important, and not just something to be casually shared with everyone, whatever, you got a cake at the market and you're like, oh, have a piece of this, have a piece of this. No, not everybody should do that. That is only for special people, because of all the things that I've been saying, are they the right partner for you in the time field? Are you supposed to be making this level of music with that partner? Do you match on an energetic and spiritual, and does your provenance match, and does your biology match, and does your heart match? All these things, you're supposed to be, so the likelihood of you, hey, enough. Sorry, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a great day. Okay, quiet down. That's enough. Okay, let's have a little hug. It's okay, girl. It's okay. Yeah, it's all right. Thank you for understanding, everyone. Just got a little interruption on a little package there. Get to more questions. Thank you for understanding. Patricia says, it might be a bit off topic, but I want to share my gratitude for your performance last month. Oh, thank you so much. She says, I usually work Wednesday, so I don't always get to tune in, but follow you for several years now. Thank you for your service to Earth at this time. Oh, you are so wonderful. Thank you for that. That is like a type of Gatorade on the marathon. It makes me feel so energized. Thank you very, very much. So what Patricia is talking about is, I did an online concert last month. That was a performance of music that I've been making that is tuned to 432 hertz and contains gongs and chimes and all sorts of wonderful things. And also visuals of the lasagna kind of flying through space and moving in time with the music. And it is meant to be like a transformative space flight. So that also gives me a good opportunity to just say this. I've been super busy the past 2 weeks in creating new projects and wonderful new things. What I'm going to do with that online concert, I have the archive, I have the recording of it, and I want to make it beautiful. I want to put the titles and, make it fancy and everything, and fix up the sound a little bit. and then I'm going to upload it so that it's available like as an on demand. So I'm just about to do that. That will be available in the next couple of weeks. And I'm also going to take the soundtrack of it, like no visuals, just the soundtrack, and make that available too as like, you know, a downloadable thing for very affordable prices. Don't worry, guys. You know that I'm always wanting to make it like available to people. I don't charge $1 million, so don't worry. So yeah, I'm going to have both the music and the video. Like you'll be able to download it to your library and keep it for forever. So thank you for that. And also I'm happy to say I'm working on more upcoming, let's call them like music/art projects where it's about moving visuals and vocalizations and things. So stay tuned for all of that. Like those are still stirring in the pot. They are cooking on the pot. They're not ready yet, but I love you. Thank you so much for that. And you know something, I'll probably return to this video because I'm speaking about it when I have those links up, and I'll put them in here. I'm still researching the best like services for me to be able to put those online for. Thank you very much. Claire says, okay, what about sex when you're no longer having menses, when you're menopausal? That's a really good question. So, I mean, I would say when you're no longer able to procreate, like what there is no more paint on the paintbrush. Like you can keep on touching it to the canvas, but there is no more, you know, of that happening. So there are real questions about, it might be from, let's say this. Let's say you had a partnership when you were fertile, you've been together in partnership for your whole life, and now you're both no longer fertile. Do you still have sex? The answer is yes, of course you do, because it's like saying, we played the big concert, we have the recordings of that and everything, but we still get together and jam sometimes. Like that seems appropriate. That seems appropriate. But what does not seem appropriate is like many people in an old age home who are no longer fertile with each other, just deciding to randomly have sex with each other, like just kind of like randomly playing notes and, you know, not like that. That does not seem respectful. So my answer to that is more based in the sense of, why is this partnership happening? Is it happening through randomness, through boredom, through, is it intentional? Did the people actually say, I have an intentional telepathic connection and a bridge with this person and something to do with them? So I'll also say, the creative process, the conceptive process of conception with males and females can lead to artistic projects. Definitely. There's many times musicians are in a romantic relationship together, they're in a sexual relationship together, and what they're doing with their sexual energy is not creating a living baby, they're creating music as their living baby. And so that's another way that it can be used. How it's like, it has to be used responsibly. All of these things. I'm not saying do this, don't do this, always do this, never do this. I'm trying to say these things have to be used responsibly. That it's not just that you're randomly putting things together, you're actually making things happen. And then if you make something, you have to be a responsible creator. If you make a child, you have to be responsible parents, both parents involved in the child's life. And same thing, if you make an album together, if you make music together, literally, or whatever is the thing that you generate from that creative energy, you have to be responsible with it. That's called being adult, being mature, being a responsible creator. And what we're doing with life force energy, with both our thoughts and with our bodily expressions in sexuality, is we're being miniature co-creators. So now I have to talk about our thoughts and the actual act of sexuality. So I know that there's this trope, like this meme or whatever in this world of males when they're having sex, they're like thinking about baseball scores, right? That they're thinking about something other than their partner, or maybe they're even projecting their sexuality onto someone other than the person that they are having physical sex with in front of them. That is inappropriate. And now I'll begin to tell you why. So we have this tendril of attention. You're all experts in this class. I talk about this all the time. A tendril that reaches out and it's tasting whatever it's touching upon. And that is a big, huge part of the sexual activity. In order to do it properly, like you have to be able to see your partner and you have to be able to perceive what is going on in terms of partnership. Let me drink and collect my thoughts. Okay, wait, I'll get to oral sex too. Yes, I will. We'll talk all about this. I'm sorry, I'm drinking a lot of water. Thank you very much. So what you're supposed to do with your partner is to line up your third eyes, just like I showed you in the picture. Should I go back to the picture? You're supposed to line up your higher faculties. I know I drew kind of wavery lines. Oh, the lines all went away. How horrible. But anyway, let's annotate again. The lines are supposed to go like this, from this guy's third eye to this woman's third eye. And you are supposed to connect on that level. And that is also why you're supposed to look into your lover's eyes, and it's supposed to be love, not merely your sex partner. And you're supposed to connect on every level using your higher faculties. That's like saying if you're a musician, you're supposed to look at your friend, your partner who you're playing music with. You're supposed to listen to them. You're supposed to feel the vibrations of their music. Like, you're not supposed to be insensate. You're supposed to be connected. So this whole idea of not connecting your mind and your true mind, your perception to your partner is inappropriate and disrespectful. Now let's go to boundaries. In a telepathic society, this must be based on love. It is totally inappropriate for you to sexualize someone that you are not in a formal consensual relationship with. So let's say you take your tendril of attention, and you want to touch it onto Marilyn Monroe, a wonderful sex symbol that's famous in our world, because you think that she's really sexy and you think that she's sexier than the woman that you're actually having sex with, your wife or person in your bed. That is inappropriate, because there's a boundary between you and Marilyn Monroe, or any lady in a magazine, or any woman that you're seeing on TV, or any woman that you might see a picture of. It is not appropriate for a male or a female, anyone, to project their sexuality onto the image of someone that is not a consensual partner. And so, of course, if someone is doing this to you, but the appropriate thing is you do a Merkaba, you do a shield, and I do shields around all of my images, because I am now aware of the existence of something called pornography. I'm in this world. I've had to learn about these things. Since the change in my posture and my face, it's like a disappointment and deflation. Pornography is not where it's at on any level. And so, yes, so first I'm going to talk about the projection inappropriate. Like if someone just takes a regular Polaroid snapshot of you and they're going to take it home and they're going to masturbate to it, that is totally inappropriate. It's an inappropriate use of their tendril of attention, focusing on you, your genetics, your persona, and your life trajectory in order for them to essentially take sexual energy from you without your consent. Sexualizing someone that is not in a consensual relationship with you is a form of sexual energy stealing or harvesting. So let's say males and females are together at a swimming hole and everyone is just there to swim. Everyone is not there for sexual display or finding a mate. The females are swimming and the males are looking at them and saying, I'm looking at your bodies and I'm finding you sexually attractive and I'm staring at your bodies. They are actually inappropriately using their eyes and their inner eye, taking sexual energy from those females who are not their consensual partners. So in order to have this mature level of experience with humans where you can actually be in a sauna together, everybody has to understand that you're not allowed to look at someone as a potential sexual partner unless they're actually, you've spoken with them and they're actually your sexual partner and they don't mind you sexualizing them with your gaze. But that is going against boundaries. So you could go against someone's boundary telepathically, by thinking about them during the sexual act. You can go against someone's boundaries physically by staring at them or sexualizing them when they are not being sexual. And I've had to learn a lot in this world because I'm usually an abstraction, and now I'm here in this body of a woman. I had to learn about this tendency to sexualize a non-sexual person. And so also in my dress, I now dress in a way that hopefully deters that, but I also had to learn about the acculturalization. It is socially acceptable to do this in many ways. Look at that girl's legs. Look at that girl's boobs. Look at that girl's whatevers. That's not okay. And definitely not look at that child's legs. Definitely not. And that goes on in this time and place. And everyone, I think in this class, you are all healthy people. You can feel it, the sick and creepy. And when I say sick, like, you know what I'm talking about. You can feel the feeling of that. That is the feeling of energy not flowing healthfully through this structure. Sexual energy is supposed to flow in very specific directions, just like in your blood supply. Blood is supposed to flow in specific directions. It's not supposed to just spray everywhere. That is called having a horrible accident. So our sexuality is supposed to be directed in very specific directions, not sprayed everywhere like a big giant garden hose. That's a horrible accident. So I know people who have sexualized dogs. That is inappropriate. You are not supposed to sexualize the animal kingdom. You are not supposed to sexualize non-consensual partners. You are only supposed to sexualize beings that you have an actual sexual relationship with. Now, I can hear the males that are acculturated in this world asking me this question. But wait, Aurora, I can't control myself. I get a stiffy, I get a boner, I can't control myself. I know I'm using these funny words and kind of trying to be lighthearted here. The answer is there's two things. There's a lot of apology that must be done to many males due to sexual trauma from circumcision. I apologize to you on behalf of galactic society that trauma and abuse was perpetrated upon you. It is a horrible practice. I spoke about it in my teachings about the death cult. And part of it is, well, it is called penis lobotomy by some people. And I think that is accurate, not only in the sense there is sensitivity that is lost in the flesh that is amputated from the penis, but in the neurological disconnection and disruption to the frontal lobe as a result of circumcision. It desensitizes the penis and it also desensitizes the brain. It makes males less sensitive and more barbaric in their sexual practice. And it also can make the act of sexuality less comfortable, the act of sexual arousal less comfortable. In every way, it creates a sexual wound and a trauma at the infancy of men. And then the whole sexual activity and outgrowth and behavior from that moment is colored by that trauma. So I think that there needs to be a huge amount of social healing around that subject, and healing in terms of the actual activity of sexuality. Because if circumcised males are having sex with women, and if the males are not sensitized, they are doing things that are uncomfortable to women, not knowing that they're doing things that are uncomfortable to women. And so there is a great, again, the show Sex and the City does not talk anything about how to actually have orgasm, how to actually have this, the things that would be considered an ancient secret written in some Far Eastern Indian text, like how do you actually pleasure your woman? That some guys don't know that because they have had penis lobotomy, I'm sorry to say it, and they literally can't feel it. You're supposed to be able to feel it. This is big. You're supposed to be able to have hearing, that you can hear what is happening with your partner so that you do the right things in the music that you're playing with your partner so that it is pleasurable for both people and it results in new life. So none of this is supposed to be uncomfortable to anyone. And it is a huge understanding to me. Came to this world, I had to learn all about sexuality here. The very word for sexuality means exploitation, getting screwed, getting fucked over. The language that we use about sexuality says what is going on here, that somebody is getting the better end of the bargain, somebody is always uncomfortable. That is what's happening with anal sex, that the person who is, and now I hear the gay guys saying, oh, that's not true because the guys that are being penetrated actually feel it's wonderful. However, they have had to go through an extensive training program for their sphincter to be able to find it pleasurable. That's called a culturalization. No, it's not supposed to be pleasurable, even though you can learn to like it or whatever. It doesn't start out that way, and it's not supposed to be pleasurable in that way. And again, like this is, I'm clearly having even difficulty getting this out. Let me just have a drink of water. I'll get to more questions. It's a difficult topic to talk about, and I'd like to use lightheartedness on this. Just because a person, let me say this, a person who is sexually damaged might find things pleasurable that are not actually pleasurable or healthy. And let's talk about this, a person who is so sexually damaged to the point that they get an orgasm by having someone put poop in their mouth. There are people that do things like that, coprophilia. That's an aberration. You should have a sexual orgasm when you successfully conceive a child, when you write a symphony. That eating poop is not writing a symphony. You should never have an orgasm from that. So you can rewire your brain to be aroused to stuffed animals. You're not supposed to be aroused to stuffed animals. This is just because you have neuroplasticity does not mean that that is what's supposed to be happening. So yeah, people can learn to find something to be attractive or pleasurable. In ancient China, you know, they used to bind the women's feet and it was rotting flesh that smelled horrible, but males found it sexually arousing and they like to put their penises in there. Oh, baby, right? That is biologically horrific. And also that's through acculturalization. So we're not Chinese in, you know, the Western world. I presume that none of my audience is Chinese just because I'm speaking English. So we're speaking English. So if I say that, everyone here's like, ew, Chinese foot fetish, ew, right? But if I say something about, you know, other things that are normal here, then you think that that is normal here. That's how I feel about most human sexual practices, mostly about the way you feel about Chinese foot fetish. Nobody's doing it right. you kind of like, yuck, not in the right way. So not in mating, not in dating, and not in the actual positions that people are doing, and not in the actual movements that people are doing. Not that I'm in anybody's bedroom taking any kind of surveys or anything like that. But let's say from what I've picked up from my general survey of what is happening, like the idea that you might get a backache from vigorous activity like that is not, you shouldn't do anything like that. Let me move on to more questions. Okay. All right. Very wonderful. So Austin has a wonderful question. He says, same with oral sex? Yes, that absolutely. That's like putting in the batteries upside down. You have, instead of, face to face and genital to genital, you have it the opposite way around. So let me talk about this. So batteries don't work. And also there's dehumanization. So there's a lot going on in the world of sexual commodification and sexual power brokerage. You want a job, you're going to give someone a blowjob. And, I'm using crude language right now. And I also often say about sexual exploitation that you either have to suck a dick. These are the language that we use, or I say about sucking Satan's dick. So that's, you suck Satan's dick if you make a personal compromise, like working for a boss that you don't like. But sometimes you literally suck a dick. You literally, in order to get a job or get an opportunity in certain places, have to give oral sex to someone else. And that's because there is a submissiveness, that this is not about equal partnership together. This is about inverting those batteries. It is about taking life force energy in a way that is not good. Now, someone's going to say, but wait, I have consensual oral sex and I love it all the time and it's fantastic. And it's like, I don't want to say that you're not allowed to do that. And I know that for many women, they say that having oral sex performed on them is the only way that they can have an orgasm, because the males are not doing sex in the right way. And I think that is also why many women become disillusioned with penetration and sex with males, and they turn to relationship with females for sexual satisfaction, because females know how each other's bodies work and they pleasure one another and they bring each other to orgasm. I don't think that is this effective solution. I think if you're not gay, then I don't think the effective solution is to find a female partner, because like males aren't satisfying you, find a woman and, go with oral sex or something like that, or even have males perform oral sex on you. I think the solution is for males to heal their penises and do this intercourse properly so that it actually does create an orgasm. So yes, there is a way to have an actual orgasm, actual sex, but that many people aren't doing it right. So if you do it right, then you'll feel really wonderful. And I don't know if there's enough maturity for everyone for me to talk about all of this. I mean, I could write a whole handbook all about the energy and how energy is supposed to flow. It's not, so very little of the orgasm is supposed to come from physical movement. Mostly it's supposed to come from energy. It's supposed to be so sensitive, and everyone here is so desensitized that it's like they're playing their music really, really, really loud and not listening to each other. It's not the way to do it. That's the only thing that I can describe. You can tell I'm having a little bit of trouble interfacing with humanity on this. Let me get some more questions. Marco says, the orgasm you drew with the energy going up seems like a regenerative orgasm, while a normal degenerative orgasm throws energy off in a downward and out direction. This is different, right? So I've never experienced a degenerative orgasm. So I didn't know that I had to draw that. I didn't know that exists. Thank you for informing me that exists. Yes, I only experience positive orgasms that are this connection to life force energy and regeneration. So I'm not aware that there's it's like I ride my bicycle properly so that I stay upright. But yes, apparently there is a way to ride your bicycle improperly so that you fall over and get a skinned knee. Do not fall over. Ride your bicycle in a better way. Billy, and welcome to the class. If you are new, if I don't recognize your name, says Ingo Swann wrote a book called Psychic Sexuality, the Biopsychic Anatomy of Sexual Energies. He describes what he sees clairvoyantly during a mating ritual. It's amazing. There's a lot going on unconsciously on an energetic level before people even meet. Very truthful. I will agree on that. He says he describes a woman's energy, but when she's in a heightened state, the description of energy patterns around her matches exactly how Victoria's Secret models dress in their costumes. Interesting. Gloves, wings, boots, halos. Coincidence? Oh, absolutely. So there's so much in terms of the hypnotic programming or the trigger, the use of imagery in our sexuality in this world. That's another way. Let me just drink more water. My voice is so tired. That's another way in which sexuality is hijacked and distorted, that it's not just like you're in a world where you say, I'm attracted to that person, or I feel this way about my body. We are totally being influenced by images from media about what is sexy, what is attractive, what is desirable, and all of these different things. So, and then when we get into transgenderism, we will see how that is harmful, because it's like saying, I'm going to play this note, which is a C, but I'm going to call it a D. That's a D, everyone. That's a D. It's not, it's a C, but we're going to call it a D. So if you have transgender Victoria's Secret models and they are genetically playing a C, but you're calling it a D, then there's this confusion. So there's a lot of confusion and mismanagement of gender identity and sexuality. That is what is going on here. And everyone wants to come from the idea that it's just live and let live and do what you want to do. However, you're connected to a symphony of life. And when you're a mature musician, you understand that. So, it's actually, I have to say this too. Would you be okay if someone else drove a car down the road that had totally unsafe brakes or unsafe tires or whatever? No, of course not, because it directly affects you if they don't have brakes and they crash into your car. That is how we now must begin to approach sexuality. It is something private that is done between two partners, or more partners. However, it affects everyone. And I need to talk a little bit about energy harvesting. There's this whole demonic substrate and all these minions. For a long time, there were beings that literally were like, how you have communications that go through an electronic server from one email through a server to another email. They set up sexuality servers where all orgasms had to go through their server. So it's the hijacking and siphoning off of energy. So even if you are trying to have a healthy sexual relationship, when you have an orgasm, instead of connecting directly to the divine, it has to go through this server and have things taken off of it before it gets to you or to your partner or to circulates back to you. None of that is cool. None of that is okay. So that's the misnomer. That's the presentation here. Like, who are you to tell me what to do with my genitals? I'm free. Like, it's just a freedom thing. And I have to say, I'm all about freedom. This is not a freedom thing, because you are making other people less free if you inhibit their music, if you sexually distort or hijack their energy, then they are not free. So, whatever. Going back to, let's talk about media. There's all of these things about what is sexually desirable that are images from our media, and it can be incredibly intentionally manipulative to the point that people do things that are destructive to their bodies in order to appear sexually attractive. And it is very unhealthy. Like, I probably don't have to speak to people in this class about this, but the idea of injecting a paralyzing toxin into your face as a sign of beauty says that this is a very distorted culture. And that is what Botox is, that people think that they are more beautiful in quotes, if they inject or have a toxin injected into the lower layers of their skin, of their face. I'm telling you guys, that does not make you more beautiful on any level. And I'm also speaking here on an energetic level, because I perceive both the physical energy of a person and their non-physical energy. And, if you have artificial things done to you, even if it makes you look better on the surface of your physical face, better, quote unquote, makes you look different to me, we can still see your true face. In the astral world, they can still see your true nose before you had your plastic surgery. You're not fooling anyone, or whatever. You don't have a big bosom in the astral realm, but that you have artificial breasts in reality. I'm making jokes and being lighthearted, but it's the truth. That to me, the most beautiful thing is an accurate expression in the flesh of who you are in potential of energy. And when people do fake things, whatever type of fake things they're doing, from having fake boob implants or fake ass implants or injections into their mouth, people in this class, can I just please caution you, please do not have fake SHIT injected into your face, because also this is not, you must understand this in the context of energetic minions, demons, the economy of hell. They start off with the baby penis facial, right? It's a way of you participating tangentially in satanic technology and ritual abuse. What do they do with all those little circumcised penises? I know, we'll turn them into the baby penis facial. And it'll make you more beautiful to have penile stem cells smeared on your face. Like, that does not make you more beautiful. So it's like you're doing a ritual to a demon in order to appear more beautiful. And then if your beauty fades, and it's like, oh, well, now we're going to have to inject some cells into your body. And then I think that begins to take over the spirituality. And I think that there's also nano and things like that in the injections, that it's not just collagen. It's not just that. I think it is exotic technology that is being used in both males and females like in these fake Hollywood type places, and that then it melts after a little while. It doesn't look so good. And then they're like, well, now we're going to have to do this to you in order just to make you look not like a horrible monster. Then it gets so bad. And some of them look so bad. And they're like, let's just clone you. Like, let's just offer you the clone package because your face looks so bad now. So anyway, I know that's a bit of a tangent, and I just brought up a bunch of things where people are like, now Aurora's crazy because she's talking about cloning. No, I'm not. I'm trying to say that it's going down that road of using synthetic technology to make your body supposedly, quote unquote, more beautiful. When it's not more beautiful, it is more disturbed, more distressed, less beautiful, less healthy, less vital. To me, the most beautiful thing you can possibly do is be healthy. And also there's this huge push now recently with contouring makeup. People put on a thick layer of makeup. Like, I'm not exaggerating, thick layer of makeup all over them. And there are plenty of YouTube tutorials in order to make them look like a different person. And it is a basic aspect of lack of self-love. If you do not like the way the basic planes of your face look, and you have to put on elaborate stage makeup just to walk around outside and go out and get the mail, there are serious issues in terms of self-love. So that must be addressed. And I think there must be addressed also the idea of self-love and self-acceptance in the transgender world. And I'm getting to all these wonderful questions. So yeah, I'm not hate speeching here when I say this, that if you feel that you need extensive plastic surgery and hormonal treatments and other, genital reassignment surgery in order to accept yourself, that is not self-acceptance. Self-acceptance says, I love myself as I am, not with hugely cumbersome surgical and hormonal procedures. I apologize if I'm offending anyone with this simple common sense basic truth that I'm saying. It's like if my hair is naturally straight. I do this artificially to my hair using natural flaxseed gel. I think it is wonderful to adorn our bodies. And you will see also images of me where I have my face elaborately painted. Like, I do that for a photo shoot. There's lots of chemicals in makeup. But oh my goodness, the idea that a person would have to wear a giant fake mask or a life fake mask. Like, I think that is what transgenderism is. I think that it is a person that has such confusion of who they really are that they feel that they have to wear a mask of their entire life and pretend to be someone else and build a completely new identity instead of loving who they are. That you can be a male or a female with whatever sexual proclivities, attractions, or desires, or personality expressions without having to change your genitalia. That's it. Like, you can be a manly man, a manly woman, you can be a girly girl, you can be a girly boy. Why do we have to have surgery in order to accept those things? So again, that is I'm talking about these things through your cultural filter. I'm amazed that is a wild thing to say because this world is heavily inverted in everything that's going on. Oh, thank you. Pedro was concerned that my dog was digging on my couch. It is why I have a dog-proof couch. Thank you very much. Robert says, I have always wanted to live on a permaculture farm with a loving community of people, but it's hard in the current setup. I have a permaculture farm. I wish to commune with others here. So yes, I think that is wonderful, and that we can do many more approaches like that. Things like eco villages, living in community. Let me just do this. I live in Ojai, and there are some very large communal farms that are on one area, kind of like, in the more rural section. And it's wonderful to see how people are building a life together. It means that you are less reliant on corporate infrastructure and more reliant on your neighbors and people that actually live there. And they do a lot of stuff with growing their own food and selling at the farmer's market. And that's just one example. Like, you can do something that is very earthy like that. You can also do something that involves a different type of project that could be art or music or teaching or something else. So it can be growing vegetables together, but it can also be making music together or whatever is your thing. So just think of it like this, like in old Europe, you got your name based upon what your family did. You were a miller, you were a smith, and everyone taught everybody the business and everybody set everybody up in business. Family. What if we started treating each other as human family? If I said, hey, like, I have this business over here and I want you to come help me in my business and we're going to work together. Like, mostly that is only done in terms of commodification and profit partnership. And mostly it's not done in the sense of like, you're my son and I'm helping you to work on the farm or like have a place to live and you help me. Like, we need to change our priorities in every way. I know a lot of people in my life personally that have changed their priorities and they live with non-biological family members and they do have that sense of human family. I'm making the call now for all of us to begin to start doing this thing. You have to be selective about who you trust in your inner circle. Like there is, people that you trust that live on your farm, not just every random passing stranger. And so if that's a theme that you're noticing here as I'm talking to you about sexuality today, it is about building family. The babies that you have, the person that you procreate with is not a random passing stranger. The baby that you have, the soul that you bring in is not a random stranger. And the community that you build as family is not filled with random passing strangers. So let's say that you're building a non-biological community, some kind of permaculture farm. This could be considered like your star family. Many of us came here. I came here very recently. I'm a recent addition to the team. Many of us came here generations ago. Find your family. Find your family. And I'm not saying that your family is not your biological family. That might be your biological family. But if it's not your biological family, find your human family. Find the people that you're supposed to be living with and loving. And loving can be like in a unconditional love. And then sometimes it might be in sexual partnership, but sometimes might not. Patricia says yes to the soundtrack. It's coming. Chloe says, I did have a daughter, so I did play the big show, but now divorced and dating. I understand. Eleanor, good to see you. She says, I'm 66 years old. I have to say that I totally agree with what you were saying. I'm a child of the 60s and did it completely the other way. Sex with multiple partners, not good overall. Yeah, I think that was a social experiment that was brought to humanity in the 60s, that it was presented as liberation for women. And a big part of it was the birth control pill, having oral contraception, that you didn't have to have a physical barrier, that you made a man put on his penis, that you could be in charge of your own hormones and have sex with as many guys as you want to, and it's super liberating. I don't consider that liberating. And now here I'm going to tell you more energy stuff. So women contain the womb. Down here, it is a literal source that is a connection to divinity. That's your literal, phone home. That is your connection to God. That is an amazing thing to have. And males also have their own divine connection, but it is different than the container that women have. And so women have this incredible source of energy inside of them. And yes, your sexual partners get energy from you. That is the part of the sharing of it. And of course, you also receive sexual energy and genetic material from your partner, but it's really got to be really understood. Guys or male partners, when they connect with a woman, the woman has the womb, there's a lot of energy that a male is able to have access to through doing that. So in the Western world, this is how we can understand the idea of the muse, the artistic muse. You have the man who's the painter. And he's like, I ain't got no ideas. I'm just a man. I don't have a divine connection giving me ideas. So I'm going to find a muse, a beautiful woman who can pose for me naked, and maybe we can even have sex, and then I will be inspired to paint. Do you get it? So it's pretty much like saying the guy didn't have a connection on his own to his creative life force energy and getting ideas for his painting, but women have tons of connections. Women are so connected that even in the most benighted societies, women still have successful babies. That's how connected we are to life force energy, to the creative process, to divinity. Have babies because it has to be that way so that we can continue having a species. Because if it only happened through love in the perfect situations, then we would have died out long ago. So women have to be very badass in that way. However, that's not the way it's supposed to be. So yes, it is way more convenient to men, this sexual liberation, to say women are supposed to have 10 million sexual partners. It's way more convenient to men because that means that they can eat at the entire buffet, going to eat at every buffet. They're going to get all of that energy, but much less convenient to women because now it means you got all these freeloaders. You got all of these guys taking energy from you and your divine connection. This is really something that women have to know about in making your life choices. That yes, sexual partners create an energetic bond with you, and they draw sexual energy from you in the activity and also reverberating afterwards. That bond is important. It's supposed to keep you together as a family when you have your babies. That's why casual sex is idiotic. You can't be casually bonded together forever. When you have sex, you're bonded together forever. It's a very powerful thing. And that's why rape is such an aberration. It is non-consensual bonding together forever. It's like super glue. You don't want to get super glue on the wrong things. That is gluing the wrong things together forever. Don't do those things. Yes, I know I'm getting a little bit silly. Okay. Wait, way more convenient sexual revolution for males than for females. Females, not only, I'm telling you now, be super choosy about who are your partners and what are their genetic and personality characteristics, and also be super choosy and get to know people, and don't just, say like have sex and then get to know them afterwards, because you might find that you have a lot of like loser freeloaders by doing that. Pedro says, we are exposed to ads, commercials, and music with sexual content every day. The Pooties want us all to generate as much sexual energy as possible. Definitely, as much low-level sexual energy as possible, not divine orgasms. If you're generating divine orgasms, that's the literal antithesis. That literally purifies the time field. It's like sending out the most amazing, wait. Let me get some good music here. The most amazing music is sent out that organizes everything and is like giant, amazing fireworks, is what happens when you do it right. So Robert says, what about quote unquote self-manipulation, masturbation? Are you allowed to have an orgasm by yourself? The answer is yes. And when you're doing that, I would say that you are having a lovemaking with the cosmos, and that is appropriate. It is appropriate for you in whatever way you are expressing your own sexuality and the life force that flows through you, to do it in a loving partnership. So just like you can have a flying rainbow lasagna dance on your own with the world around you, you can have a loving sexual experience with the world around you. That is how I would define that you're creating an energy bridge. So, okay, between males and females, let's draw it out. Between males and females, in physical intercourse, you are creating an energy bridge through, my drawing keeps escaping away, but it's okay. Let's kind of think of it like a large circuit or like a figure eight between these two people. Okay, good. Like a big like this, right? Like a big, very hard to draw figure eight through these two people. But let's say that your partner over here is not a physically embodied man. Let's say it's like, a star. Here I'm drawing the sun. Can you do this with the sun? The answer is yes. You do this big, giant, beautiful figure eight with the sun, sending energy back and forth to you. And I would call that cosmic lovemaking. And I would not say to send it to a biblical God, or to send it to anything that calls itself God that wants to eat your sexual energy. It's like, that's not a good partner. Only gotta look for respectful, consensual partners, no matter who or whom or whatever you are connecting with. But yeah, I always recommend like divinity, the sun, the stars, like these are the wonderful things to connect with. And that is totally appropriate. And it is also part of having a body, being healthy and alive. Being a healthy, alive adult means that when I say orgasm, it is literally like reconnection to the divine. You're making love with God, and you practice on your own, and then you find your ideal partner and you practice with your partner, and then you make a baby. That's it. You practice on your own. Of course, learn to play the piano, practice on your own. That's how you make music on your own. Good. Now that you're good at it, do it with your partner, make a symphony together. That is totally the way you're supposed to do it. Matthew says, wise women say, build here, men make it happen. I feel that's how it was. I'm not sure if I understand. He says, wow, you just spoke to all the things that made it work with my children. My wife's family was stagnating in entropy. My family was rocketing in intensity. Our children are a good balance. I could feel that my blood really wanted more stability and her bloodline needed fire. So he balanced it out. Now that we are no longer together, it is confusing to even have sexuality. I've spent so much life around that expression. All the other expressions seem inferior or supplemental. This is the work, I think. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing about your personal experience. Brandon says, thank you for that explanation on circumcision. Yes, I'm hugely against circumcision, even though it is culturally accepted and protected and religiously. Having to talk about female genital mutilation, my face says it all, like horrific offense against humans, offense against women, offense against God, horrible, not acceptable on any level. Jen says, I totally feel the same way. You should write a book. I would write a book. I'm way more about painting and painting. I'm not so much about expressing myself through words. It's like painfully slow and difficult. How about I just paint a painting and telepathically beam all of this to you? That sounds awesome. Melissa says, women not thinking, feeling that they are attractive enough due to a long history of distorting the value of sex and beauty. Totally. Let me do this. I'm going to speak to the distortions on sex and beauty. Let me finish reading what you're saying. Placing domination over women, monetary value of women. This all led up to women feeling like they have to place chemicals on their face and hair and skin to live up to the distorted value of beauty. Yes. Let's talk about fake boobs. Cleavage is meant to be the thing that keeps males attracted to their females. Wait, let me do this. Postpartum. When women have babies, their bellies grow larger, their breasts grow larger. After they have a baby, like their bodies are still like getting back into shape or whatever. And women need to make sure that their males stay at home. This is biological stuff and energetic stuff I'm telling you, because we need help. We need to be able to get food and all these things. We have a new baby to take care of. Got to make sure that males are bonded with their females, that they will stay and take care of the baby. This is important stuff. So cleavage, this is breastfeeding. It's like, I am so attracted to my wife who's breastfeeding my children and keeping them alive, that this cleavage is fun and desirable and makes me want to stay with my wife, makes me want to continue to make love to my wife. Like, that's what cleavage is all about. In our artificially distorted world, the idea of beauty is you want to have a very, very, very slender woman who looks like she cannot even procreate at all, but then with artificially implanted cleavage to make it look like she's breastfeeding. Like, this is just the complete distortion is what I'm trying to say. So they've hijacked the biological imperative of loving your wife who's got cleavage after pregnancy because she's breastfeeding, and put it into artificial, and then to put breasts into men and make males sexually attracted biologically through that trigger of seeing cleavage to males that have fake implants. I don't even know where to go with this. Like, at a certain point, it's like, I'm having trouble even connecting my brain to my mouth. I hope that this is amusing. It's very challenging. So it's the heavy levels of lack of self-love and distortion that would even lead a woman to mutilate their breasts on that level. I'm very sorry for any woman who's watching this, if you've had breast surgery. I apologize. I'm not trying to be down on you or whatever. I know that there's self-esteem issues, but there are huge health concerns in terms of autoimmune diseases, the silicone leaking into the body, the texture of the breasts, of the implants, and whether that causes cancer, encapsulation. It's a horrible thing to do to your healthy breasts. I'm happy if you did it and you have no problems. And if you have problems, I'm very sorry and hope you get them explanted immediately. It is insanity of this age. It is insanity that women volunteer to do that and even pay big money to do that. Austin says, what's your perspective on Taoist practices of masturbation or sex without ejaculation? So I don't know exactly all about it because I'm not a man. I have not practiced that. I speak about things from my perspective because I'm a woman. So I would say that there are a lot of interesting ways to utilize sexual energy that are not with the traditional way that they're teaching in, the United States, with like friction and motion and things like that, things that are much more subtle in terms of energy. So perhaps this is another form of subtle use of energy. Like, I'm not familiar with it. I think the idea is that instead of actually ejaculating the sperm, that it is not ejaculated, and that the energy that the male is building up to orgasm is not ejaculated either, and instead kind of circulates back into the body. So again, I've never practiced that. I'm not a man. I'm aware of what's going on. Let's say I would leave that up to males and their partners to decide if they want to do that. There's lots of different books. Like there's a couple of books that are about Pleiadian dolphin. I don't know if you would call it tantra or whatever, but this idea of like how to make these figure eights between you and your partner, how to do these complex symphonies of life. Like, I have not written that material. Other people have written that material. I would encourage you to look into that. It exists out there. So there are some, I'm planting the seed. I'm giving you the idea. Like, none of this is supposed to be, it's just kind of like when I tell you about the human digestive system and how things have been distorted. Our teeth are our mouth crystals, and we're not supposed to use them to mash up smashed potatoes and put them in our belly and poop it out. Like, that's not, we're supposed to do much more subtle things with our mouth and with our teeth. And same thing with our genitals. We're supposed to do much more subtle things in these sexual expressions than what is being taught. It's energetic, it's subtle, and it's just like playing the piano or playing a violin. And a lot of it is about the experience. Like, I don't think I can probably describe it to you with words, but it's about the experience of being responsive. And if you respond to the music correctly, then it turns out to be a beautiful symphony. Dominic says, what about the female cycles and how birth control affects them? Yeah, it's totally unnatural. So the whole female cycle is about being, oh my goodness, let's mute everyone. Mute everyone. The whole female cycle. So yeah, my creative process of making an art piece is very connected to my female cycle of, having fertility and then having times of, having rest. Like, that is normal. So it's like when I'm an artist, as a physical artist, I conceive of a piece. I get the idea of a piece. And then I work to gestate that piece. It's the process of painting it. And then eventually it is completed. It gets born, gets shown to the world. Like that whole idea of, conception, gestation, and then sharing feels to me like what a woman does with her womb. That is what I'm doing with my creative energy. So I hope that that's evident. Like this is the my cosmic lovemaking. And, also say this on the subject of sex or lovemaking. Lovemaking is private, but it's not secret. It is something, it's like pooping, but not like pooping, but like bodily processes. It is something that is done in private, but it's not secret. So that means it's like, we know you're doing it, but we want to get, like, people know that I'm doing my artwork. I have a studio so that I have a space where I can concentrate, where I can focus, where it's comfortable, where I can do what I need to do. But people know what I'm doing in my studio. And if you're energetically perceptive, you can see what people are doing. You know what they're doing in the bedroom. So let's get on to this. When you have your higher faculties awakened, not only can you see who your partner is supposed to be, you can see who's doing what in the bedroom. You can see who a person has been sleeping with because you can see the energetic attachments. You can see if two people are partnered as present romantic partners or sexual partners. You can see if two people are no longer together as sexual partners. You begin to perceive all of these things. So a lot of people can perceive them intuitively, not seeing it like actual energy tendrils, but more feeling it and sensing it. Because you might be like, oh, I can sense that there's trouble in their relationship, so I'm going to try to get that girl to like me instead. Like this happens in movies, so I presume this is what's going on. That's like a sensing that those tendrils aren't there, but also not like actually perceiving. How about this? If you're in a committed relationship and you feel all of a sudden that distance from your partner, and you think, I wonder if he's stepping out on me. I wonder if he's sleeping with someone else, because you can feel either those tendrils are connecting and their attention and connecting with you, or maybe those tendrils are focused on someone else and they're connecting elsewhere. So when you actually can have awakened higher faculties, you can see this all very clearly. You can be like, that lady is sleeping with her boss, that guy is sleeping with the secretary, like all these things are happening. You can see it. And often the barrier to seeing it and recognizing it is that it's so socially inappropriate. All the things that you see that are going on are totally socially inappropriate and supposed to be totally secret and hidden, but you can tell what's going on. So think about that too. As we move into a telepathic society where everyone has awakened faculties, you're not hiding anything. Just like people know, like when I go into the bathroom and I shut the door, like they know that I'm peeing and pooping. I'm allowed to. It's what you're supposed to do in the bathroom. And same thing with your sexual partner. Like, yeah, you are having sex with your sexual partner. That is what you're supposed to do. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's like, you got to be clear on this. You're not hiding anything from anyone. Nothing is secret, but that also means I don't get to have access to someone else's life. Like I don't get to be a voyeur. No one should be a voyeur. And similarly, I said, like, no bearded sky god. You should not have to ask permission from any bearded sky god to say, am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to do this? It is about you and your partner and, your own expression of divinity. Robert says, you are putting words to so many things that I have never heard anyone say, but that I know on an intuitive level, and you're confirming what I feel inside. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So I'm definitely open to any more questions or comments or things that people might want to share, with the understanding that this is on YouTube. If you do not want to share things that might be private on YouTube, I can also end the recording for right now so that we as a class can continue to discuss this. Let me drink a little bit of juice here. Sorry, that was sour. It's juice from my own tree. My orange tree. There's some very sour bits. That's why I made a face. Okay, and let me just also check through all of my notes here to make sure that I'm getting everything possible. I think I hit all the things that are very important that I wanted to get to. So what about homosexuality? In Aurora's view of the world, how does homosexuality fit in there? I mean, I would say that no, you should not kill yourself at all because you're not having procreative sex or because you have an attraction to the opposite sex. But I also would say that I think that there is right now in our world an artificial proliferation of homosexuality and an artificial encouragement of the practice and of its expression. Yeah, I think that it is part of the usual expression in humanity, but I think it's been artificially amplified. So if you ordinarily would have a certain percentage of the population doing that, but then it becomes many, many more. There's some that is a cultural thing that has become more culturally accepted. So yeah, there have been many times and places where homosexuality has been acculturated because it is convenient to the culture. Here are two examples. One is in ancient Rome and ancient Greece, and one is on pirate ships, that the homosexuality was encouraged in some of these places because it formed a strong bond between partners. Partners in war in Sparta, they were all like sexual partners because that was encouraged. And again, with some of the Roman centurions too, because it forms a bond. And then you'll fight for your brothers in battle because you are bonded with them. And on pirate ships, it was similarly acculturated because there were no women around. And there are other places like the Navy and other things like the modern day pirate ships where it is acculturated and considered to be normal and acceptable because there are not other women around. So now it's starting to understand that there's some ways in which homosexuality is expressed, that it's that disposable sexuality. Males who have been traumatized, who feel stimulation. Let's talk about arousal. Males who say, I simply can't control myself. I'm aroused. You must wear a burqa. I can't control my penis. Males are broken or distorted in some way that they're aroused inappropriately. You know that you're not aroused by an image of your grandma in her underpants, right? Or like by whatever distasteful image that I might speak about. Some people can be artificially caused to be aroused by, like I said, stuffed animals. It's a biological mechanism that can be hijacked. And so like, let's say you come from a culture where you're not allowed to see ankles, but then, oh, I see an ankle. Oh no, I'm aroused. It's time for me to beat you and put you in a burqa. This is what I'm talking about, that it is a biological mechanism and it's supposed to be connected like a fine-tuned instrument to the person that you're actually supposed to be with, that you only get aroused with appropriate sexual partners, not with just anyone. So males, it is definitely your responsibility to begin to be aroused naturally by appropriate sexual partners, not by all these other things, and to express that arousal appropriately with consensual partners. So that's the whole idea, is that males are given, an arousal, and then they have to actually express it appropriately. If they are violent or rude or an asshole, pardon my French, then women should not allow them into their womb. Those are personality characteristics that I, as a woman, would not want to continue moving through time. Violent, rude asshole? No, you may not enter my womb and continue moving through time. How about polite gentleman who is loving and cares for me? Possibility that your personality characters can continue in the time field. That's the way it's supposed to be. Yes. So yes. Elisa says, is it real, this hype on twin flames? Oh, good question. Thank you so much. Does something like this exist? When yes, how is this created? I think twin flames is so distorted and so BS. So here's what I'm trying to say. Twin flames, as it is presented right now in the new age world, is a psyop. And I think that a lot of this also comes from what some people are calling the alien love bite phenomenon. I have not read this book, so I'm just using air quotes. The idea that malevolent aliens or putis or demons would be artificially Cupid's bow, going to artificially zap you with Cupid's bow and say, you and you are going to fall in love together. We're going to do like a human mating program, like in the human zoo. That I think that there's a lot of that going on, that people recognize that their feelings of attraction and who they are aroused by are being artificially influenced by unwholesome extraterrestrials. P.S. I'm just going to make a little, I don't go around like a flying rainbow lasagna telling who to sleep with or who to have sex with. I'm just making a little distinction there. But yes, some of these other ones do. And it's because they want to do human breeding programs in the human zoo. So I think that this idea of twin flames is part of that whole psyop type thing, where it's disempowering, first of all, because like if I tell you, hey, you can do the flying rainbow lasagna dance, it's a partnerless dance. It's not like you have to go out and find your twin flame, a very, very, difficult things, and then finally get all the visas to go to their country. And then you can finally do the flying rainbow lasagna with them. No, you don't have to do that. You can do it sitting in your lawn chair. Like just go in your backyard. It's easy. That's the whole thing. I think that there's this disempowerment thing, that it's the sense that you're not whole as an individual. So I will use myself as an example. I'm whole as an individual. I'm a balance of divine masculine and divine feminine in a human female body. Please do not be confused. I have an old bio that I wrote on my website more than 10 years ago. And what I write on there is, I'm a galactic abstraction, and usually I'm not in the form of a male or a female. And I'm in this, human female body. In this culture now of transgender agenda, people look at that and they say, oh, Aurora's saying that she's gender fluid. She's not a man. She's not a woman. We're going to call her like it or something like that. It's like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. when I'm not in a body, I'm shaped like an abstraction. I don't have a face, and I don't have genitals, and I don't have DNA, and I'm not a man or a woman. I'm a song. I'm a melody. I'm a potentiality. But here on this planet, I'm in the body of a woman. So I have learned what it feels like to have a menstrual reproductive cycle, to walk around looking female, and all of the ways in which I interact with males and females based upon that. And I will tell you, I remember the first time that I realized that a male was condescending to me because I was a female, that I had shown someone my artwork and my drawings very early in my efforts here. And they looked at me and they said, well, that's what's going on in that pretty little head of yours. And I was like, wow, that person had underestimated me based on my sex and my appearance. And now I've raised their esteem by showing them my notebook. So I had to understand people will judge you and be full of expectations based upon your biological container. I learned all the lessons of what it's like to walk around here looking like a female. And also in my approach to performing activities and socialization, I don't make a distinction like that is work for a man or that is work for a woman. Like, I will do anything. I've done different types of works and jobs that are both for men and women. Like, I do both clothing design and carpentry. Yes, I can draw a straight line and be very analytical, and I can also be very artistic. I'm a balance of both male, what we call, so let's talk about culturalization here. What do we call male characteristics? I would define those things that we call male characteristics to be leadership characteristics, that we associate maleness with leadership, with being in charge, with being analytical, with knowing things, or being forthright, or being able to do math. And you know something, I can do all of those things, but I'm not a male. I'm a woman. So I would say that I have embraced that aspect of myself, and I have a balance inside of me. So all of this is about twin flames. The idea that you might feel like, oh, I'm a woman and I have to have a man to balance things out because I can't do math and I can't do my taxes and he has to change the oil or some kind of thing like that. I think that's what twin flames is kind of playing upon. And it's a disempowerment agenda, because it also says to males like, oh, males, you can't reach your ascension. You can't do this and you can't do that. Kind of like a man who needs a female muse. Like, until you find your woman and until you do this. Like, no, the only thing that you need the man and the woman for is making the baby. Like, the other stuff, your personal fulfillment and who you are as a human and who you are as an artist and what you can make and what you can do, that is all your own individual journey. And the idea is, when you find healthy partnership, like, everything amplifies your goodness and their goodness, and you help each other in your life, and everything grows and everything amplifies. So I think that this whole thing on twin flame is a disempowerment psyop agenda that makes, because I've been on some twin flame groups, and a lot of these people, they're like, oh, I met my twin flame, but this is the worst relationship I've ever been in. All we do is fight, or it just causes all of this trouble. Or it's like, oh, that guy lives in Sweden, but I live here and we can never be together. It seems like these are totally the opposite of what romantic partnership is supposed to be, which is fulfilling and nourishing in your life. It is not supposed to be the drama that drags you down. It is supposed to be the fuel and the food that lifts you up. That's what I'm talking about, that bond that is so powerful between, loving partners. That's what society wants to destroy, because literally partners, like lovers, let's use the word lovers because this is about real love, that tone of love. Lovers will find each other across time. Lovers will die for each other. Lovers will lift cars off of, lift a car because you're in an emergency. Lovers will do amazing things for each other is the words that I'm trying to get out. It's an incredibly strong bond that, of course, the world would rather have you do casual sexuality in 4-inch stiletto heels and not form those bonds and not say, I will do anything for that person, because that is disempowerment. So, so twin flame, I think, is bogus. And that is not something that you have to look for. But I'm saying, who you're supposed to be with when you have your awakened higher faculties, and you can see them. Like, what they look like and how they walk and talk and smell. It's not a surprise. You know who you're supposed to be with. You might dream of them. Okay. Billy says, what is the relationship between sexual energies and creativity in general, like artistic creativity? Does creativity have a peak in a lifetime? No, you can be creative throughout your whole entire lifetime, and you can be creative as a non-sexually mature child. So that's the difference. That in human fertility, you must reach physical maturity, and then there's a period within which you can actually create other humans. However, you can be a very creative 3-year-old. You can be a creative 89-year-old artistically. No, you don't have to get less or fewer ideas or creative inspiration as you grow older. And that's one of those changes in our ideas of moving through time, whether you're going to become more and more decrepit as you move through time. Why would you lose your creative spark? You never have to lose your creative spark. So sometimes people, their physical vitality might flag, and they might not be able to paint as well or sing as well, but the creative energy still gets to be there. So yeah, Brandon says, thank you so much, not only for today's lesson, but for the whole semester. You are an amazing teacher and a beautiful woman being in this form. Thank you so much. And he says, meant respectfully. I take it respectfully, and I thank you so much for that. Thank you very much. The rocky start to today's presentation because of the immaturity in the Facebook is totally erased by the wonderful interactions that I have with the lovely musicians in this class. Like, they are lame ass losers that they don't know how to listen. They're not prepared for symphonic music at all, and they definitely don't know how to play. And the people in this class, and Brandon, you are so beautiful, and I'm happy to find humans of your caliber to be able to play music with, and it makes me feel happy and hopeful and excited about our collaboration, about the symphony that we are making here, about the wonderful biological symphony that we are making here. So thank you very much for that. I send out my love to this entire class and the really lovely people that watch my videos. Austin says, if we imagine an animalistic caveman is a 1/10 and an empowered Atlantean that can sing things into existence is a 10 out of 10. Okay, so caveman is 1 out of 10. Empowered Atlantean that can sing things into existence is 10 out of 10. Can you give an idea where you think the average human falls on the scale and where you personally fall on the scale? So I don't know about the average human. I don't know about like statistics. I think actually that there are more awakened people than asleep people. I think that the majority, like over 50% of humanity here, is awakened and is trying to do some form of inner exploration. And I think that there's a significant portion that is also overtly co-opted, like overtly demonic, not even in control of their own mind, body, and spirit. Something else is running the steering wheel that's malevolent and not very good. I mean, you're asking me in terms of where I am on the scale. Can I sing things into existence? I can lasagna things into existence. And I feel like that is encouraging more and more. Like, I mean, I don't want to just self-aggrandize or anything like that, but I feel like I'm at that level. Let's see, so you want me to compare my level of development to other people? So I would say this, instead of using your scale, I would say this: all of the humans that are here have the potential to flying rainbow lasagna and become a genetic virtuoso. Not everyone will do the work in order to run that marathon, but everybody has the potential. So it's like saying, you can get the sneakers, you can run around the track, you can do that. Oh, let me mute you. If you ask me, how much can I run? I can run 100 miles. Like, I'm really good at running. I've been running for 18 years and I invented this thing that I'm doing. I'm really good at it. And that's not self-aggrandizement. That's why I feel qualified to even do a video and try to teach other people about it. My encouragement to you is not like, I don't want to do a comparison thing where I say I'm so much more than you. I want to say each person has the potential to do that. Like, if you look at my muscles and you say, those are strong lasagna muscles, I say, thank you. And you can have your own version of this if you work on this consistently over 18 years. Just like my studio. People, if you walk around my studio, say, that's a lot of artwork. It's a lot of artwork. I've been painting for a long time. You also can have a studio full of artwork if you sit down and paint every day. And so that is what I do. So the answer to your question, Austin, is that everyone who's here on Earth right now has the potential. However, it's a question of how many people will actually do the work to follow their potential. And I'm totally like the most encouraging coach or teacher, like, run that marathon, do it, try as much as you can, do it. And I really feel like the road rises to meet you. Like, the more effort that you put out in terms of, wanting to better yourself and wanting to be more loving and be more evolved, then the more that you are helped. And even good efforts that cause a mistake are still appreciated. Like, if a person does believe in a bearded Jesus, that's a good effort. That might be a little bit of a wrong note. Like, I'm not down on anybody's religion, but it's like, it's kind of a distortion to believe in the Roman Catholic Church and all these different things. You're still trying to be a better person, and that's a good thing. Or let's say, like, I'm trying to do something good for my health. I'm trying to whatever, eat vegan, but like, you eat the Impossible Burger and it's full of chemicals. Like, you're trying to do something right, and you're trying, even if it might be expressed slightly distortedly. So yes, and also cosmos and divinity is incredibly loving. Like, it is this larger metabolic being that we're within is incredibly loving and appreciates and loves each one of our individual efforts to, go in the right direction, do the right things. It's really important to be reminded of that, because there's so many voices that say like, no, you're bad, small, wrong, sinful, and poopy, and you're going to get bitch slapped by the cosmos. The cosmos is not like that. The cosmos actually applauds your efforts and wants to, send you encouragement to keep going. Thank you. Sandy likes my answer. Thank you very much. Thank you, Melissa. Love back to you. Thank you so much. And she's checking out for the moment. Thank you so much. Love, love, love back to you, Susan. Thanks so much. She says, using old school English, says, you are the bestest with the mostest. Aw, you're so sweet. Thank you very much. And I love you too. Austin says, I'm trying to understand how far along this journey we are. Okay, good. Can we get people in this lifetime that can go on YouTube and make videos and be like, look, I'm singing these butterflies into existence, or something similarly impossible from the materialist perspective? This is already happening. People are not going on YouTube and saying, here's a video of me singing butterflies into existence. But what people are doing is saying, hey, I thought there was no more coffee in the cupboard, but somehow there's more coffee in the cupboard. People are fooling themselves into materializing the things that they need. I literally have a friend on Facebook who spoke about this. Just a very quick anecdote. Husband made the coffee in the morning, used up the last of the coffee. Wife was disappointed. I wanted more coffee. Went down and somehow magically there's more coffee. She materialized that from her mind. She did not make a YouTube about it. This is what everybody needs to understand. So now you need to get into, Austin, a little bit the conception of egotism. Like, if you can do something that's really special and really magical, do you need to make a video of it? Do you need to share it with others? Can it be something that's just personal and private? What I call a medicine story for yourself. I am very careful about who I share my medicine stories with. They're magical activities that I've had, not usually on magical substances, usually in sobriety or just my daily existence of something that happens that transforms me and makes me look at the world in a different way. And when we share medicine stories with each other, it's like you hold them carefully. It's like sharing dreams with each other. Like, you don't squash them. And there's something that is special. So if someone tells me I sang butterflies into existence, I would say, thank you for telling me your medicine story. Like, that is something that happened to them that was magical, that was transformative to them. So yeah, I've had my own experiences of being able to do things that were totally impossible, that weren't impossible because I believed in them. And so I would encourage everyone to continue to cultivate their magic, but not from a sense of egotism. Like, if you can levitate, if you can do something amazing, do you need to do selfie while levitating? Like, I'm so enlightened or whatever. Or do you say instead, like, that's a pretty amazing thing that I just did. And that doing it is enough to do it. Doing it is enough to do it. Why do we have to put it onto YouTube or something like that? Chloe says, there are videos of people who can stick huge metal skewers to their face and do not bleed, and there is no wound. That is available now. So that is definitely somatic mind over matter, where people cannot feel pain because they're controlling themselves, and they can change the blood supply and everything like that. I wouldn't say that that is something that is against the laws of physics, but it is definitely in the realm of humans, profoundly controlling their mind or whatever. There are examples of things like people who can, read through their fingertips, like they're blindfolded, but they can sense written print through their fingertips or something through their feet. There are all sorts of things like that. There's all sorts of superpowers. But my real question is, if you develop an unusual tendency, what is your motivation to have to make a YouTube and say to everyone, like, I can do this thing, I'm so wonderful? Or is it a medicine story for you, a magical activity for you? So I would say, if you happen to be doing something magical and someone happens to catch it on their cell phone and it puts it up on YouTube and it becomes viral, that is very different than if you do selfie while ascending. So I would just say yellow caution flags on that egotistical stuff is kind of a slippery slope. Chloe says, so Austin says, yeah, teaching is far more important than bragging. Yes, Chloe says that. Yes. Yes. Even though taking responsibility for what you've done is a big part of it. If you paint a beautiful painting, you should say, yeah, I made that painting. It's egotism to pretend that you did it. Like, that painting didn't just make itself, you made it happen. So never be that way. Don't be like, oh, I'm too shy to take credit for my work. Take credit for your work. But also, it's like, your spiritual stuff is different than your work. Like, my spiritual stuff is my flying rainbow lasagna dance that I do every day. And I've done, some examples of it that I share with members of this class, but I don't do my dance to do like selfie while ascending. I do my dance to be in the moment with the cosmos. But I do paintings to show to other people. Like, I don't just do these to be private. I want people to see my paintings. Believe me, guys, I want everyone in the world to see my paintings if possible. So I make a distinction between my private spiritual activities that are only for me or for people in my life that I love and care about and what I share in a video. And I make a distinction between my artwork or my clothing or what I sell as a commodity and, what I do as a basic spiritual practice. And that's, my approach to being in this time and place. I think if we lived in a really healthy society, we'd all have everything we need and not have to worry about commodification on any level. But I'm still walking that fine line. It's like, I gotta make my electrons flow on a wire. Got to pay my electric bills. Join up for next semester. On that note, everyone, I'm wrapping up. My voice is so tired. Next week, we do semester wrap up. We're going to just have fun. We're just going to have a party. Last semester, we wrapped up around October. It was like Halloween. We wore wild costumes. You can wear whatever you want. Be fantastic. We're going to have a fun semester wrap up next week. Okay. So that means it can be Ask Me Anything. It can be a Q&A. We can have a dance party. We can do whatever we want. And then early June, I'm starting the cycle again. So literally, if you're finding this video, if you find this work interesting, if you'd like to know more, like what is Aurora talking about when she talks about time vortex? What are all of these shapes? What are all these questions? What is this music theory? How do I learn to become with higher faculties, flying rainbow lasagna, see through time, find the right sexual partners? Yes, please join the class. And yes, there's tuition, and you can do it through tuition or through Patreon. And I don't do like sales and marketing and stuff like that. Do the thing. I want to talk to you about it. Robert says there is much magic happening out there these days. I am absolutely finding that. I find, when I watch things on Facebook, I'm looking for like taking the pulse of what's going on. And I see a lot of people who do magical manifestation. And the only thing is they got to fool themselves into recognizing that they're God. Because if you can make coffee happen in the cupboard that wasn't there before, you literally made something happen. That's magical. That is, your connection to the divine. This is it. And it's not something external to you doing this. So I think that all of these are these little breadcrumbs or whatever reminders that we send to ourselves. Like, hey, remember, you're God. You're actually doing all this stuff. So yes, that's a good note too. So Elena says dance party, yay. Good, dance party, yay. Next week, dance party. Where you're most fabulous. Cool. So we'll have a lot of fun next week. So that's going on. I'm wrapping up for right now. I'm actually going to wrap up the recording because there's going to be a long upload. I will keep going with the chat and what's going. And I will say thank you to all of those people who are in my class, and thank you to the people who leave wonderful, thoughtful comments in YouTube. And I invite and encourage any of you to enroll formally for the next semester. And I'm going to be doing diagrams and other things like that. You're going to get homework that's like drawing homework. So be prepared.